Let me tell you why you need to learn crosswind takeoffs. Any pilot who knows how can taxi and take off in pretty strong winds, but a careless mistake can end the flight before it begins. There are just a few simple tricks to avoid major embarrassment. But more importantly, you can go flying when less competent pilots are wringing their hands and saying, "Well, I don't know." After all, confidence does come from knowing you're up to the task. So let's start off by looking at taxiing for takeoff. On a windy day, you'll need to compensate for the wind even when you're taxiing. It's not hard, but there are some fundamentals to avoid major embarrassment, not to mention damage. So I want to show you how to deal with the wind coming from each quadrant. First, we start off by looking at the wind coming straight at you. Well, that's what the airplanes are designed for, and so you don't have to do anything real special when you're taxiing directly into the wind. But when the wind blows from behind you, it could conceivably tip you on your nose, so keep your elevator down. A strong gust will push the tail down, which is a lot better than being flipped over your nose onto your back. When the wind blows from the right rear, you need to think about elevator and ailerons both. I should have said it earlier, sorry about that, but your concern is always letting the wind get under a wing or the tail and flipping you. That is the basis of all your decisions when taxiing. Here, if you keep your elevator down, you don't have to worry about your tail coming up. And if you keep your right aileron down, then the wind will push down on the right wing. This requires left aileron input. Just take that control to its limit to be safe. When the wind blows from your right front, you need to think about ailerons. In fact, when the wind blows from any direction in front of you, you just neutralize your elevator and focus on the ailerons. Right aileron input from you will hold the right wing down, and that's your objective. When the wind blows from your left front, you're still thinking only about ailerons. Left aileron and neutral elevator will keep the left wing down and the wind from affecting your pitch. When the wind blows from your left rear, it gets complicated again. Down elevator keeps the tail down. Right aileron control keeps the left aileron down, and with it the left wing. You really don't care that the up elevator on the right wing may cause that wing to go up. After all, you're trying to keep the wind from getting under the left wing. Let's look at the worst possible scenario. You're taking off from one of those land in one direction, take off in the opposite direction airports, and it happens. Assume you start with a quartering tailwind. This means that initially you would use exactly the same techniques that you would when taxiing with a quartering tailwind. In this case, your controls are elevator forward and right aileron to keep the tail and left wing down. As you accelerate, the relative wind switches to a headwind from the left. This is when you must reverse your aileron. As soon as the wind shifts forward, you go from full right aileron input to full left aileron input, and from nose down elevator input to the usual neutral elevator that you always use on the start of a normal takeoff roll. How do you know when the relative wind shifts? You can feel it in both your ailerons and elevator controls. Keep it cross control with full left aileron input until a few, perhaps 5 knots at most, above your regular rotation indicated airspeed. You want to be going fast enough that you will immediately lift off and not skitter across the runway when you pick your nose wheel off. Since you have maximum left aileron input, your right wing will come off, and that's okay. Once airborne with a positive rate of climb, and that should be instantly, level your wings, crab into the wind, stay centered over the runway, and climb in normal coordinated flight, compensating for P-factor with your right rudder pedal. That is, unless your propeller turns to the left, then you use your left rudder pedal. Unlike crosswind landings, I don't suggest that every takeoff you should use crosswind takeoff procedures. My rule of thumb is when the wind is not so strong that I need to be concerned about flight control surface placement, I probably don't need to lift my nose wheel off a bit late either, so I just make a normal takeoff. So you have learned how to taxi in a strong crosswind so you won't tip over, why you move your controls as you do so it will be easier to remember the proper technique, how to make a crosswind takeoff in the worst possible conditions.